In this lab I want to demonstrate how to reverse engineer to model up these locking pliers, and I've already got some of the components created here, and I'll show you how to create the remaining components. But the first thing I did is I brought in an image of the example files. I'm going to scale that image up, and so take your calipers and measure some known distance, say the distance from here to the center of this hole right here, and notice that I put the origin at the center of that hole, so this jaw will rotate around that location. So it makes sense to set that as the origin, or to set the midpoint of this vertical line as the origin. I think this makes the best sense, the logical location for the origin. And so I need to scale this image up, and so I started by putting this image in, but I'm showing you how I did that to start with. And you know the measurement from here to here, so you would get that image then from here over to here the same size. Now don't take the image as something set in stone, because you have some parallax error between the image and the real part, and so we just use the image as a reference rather than taking dimensions from the image. So I need to scale that down a little bit, and you can type in numbers. You could do a measure on here, and then you could put in a scale factor for an exact measurement, which is what I did originally. Since I have already done some of the parts, I'm just going to eyeball this, and I said the exact dimensions. I shouldn't have said that. You know, when you're working with an image, you're not going to have exact dimensions. But so if I put this image then back before my existing geometry, and actually I will create some additional geometry here, but if I turn off the additional or the beginning geometry, we will see the image, and I actually put it into the wrong location. So I need to see if I can drag that canvas and put it up at the upper level, and it doesn't look like I can just drag and drop. Let's see if I can cut that. We'll try a Control X, and that really kind of irritates me that Fusion 360 is, well, we'll just leave it alone. I'm going to undo everything that I just did, and then put this up at the top level. Okay, so I backed up and I brought this image at the top level of the assembly in a canvas, and I'll turn off the visibility of the components that I've already started modeling. Then if I want to edit that canvas, I can right click and edit it, or I can calibrate that canvas if I need to measure, say, a distance from here to here, and I put in that distance, whatever it is, it will calibrate the image. I've already calibrated it by eye, so I'm going to just leave that the way it is. But then if I wanted to edit that canvas, and I can change the opacity so that it's more or less visible depending on what I'm working on. And actually, before I brought this image in, I cut away any or as much as I could. I got rid of extraneous geometry, or the background, and I didn't have any special software to do this with, so I just used Microsoft Paint. But if you have Photoshop, there are better tools for removing that background. So I'm going to use this then as my reference. So I modeled this part, a combination of using the image and using my calipers for the precise dimensions, and then I modeled this jaw, and I modeled this jaw again using the image and my calipers, and then the screw. So let's turn off this canvas for a while. We won't need that. And then I want to start making the next component that goes across here. And so I'm going to right click, and I'm going to create a new component, and I'm going to call this clamping handle. All right, and then make sure that the clamping handle is your active component. Momentarily turn on the origin for that component, and I made it active. I'm going to start a new sketch on the XY plane, in this case, in the new component. I can then turn off the visibility of that plane, and for now I'll turn off the visibility of the other components. So this is my origin location, and I'm going to put a circle below the origin and to the right of the origin, and let's make that 0.1875. Now, even though it's rounded off to 3 decimal places, the software keeps track of that to the 4th decimal place. And then I'm going to locate that circle. So whenever I start a model, I draw one line or one circle or one rectangle, and I dimension that immediately for a sense of scale for the rest of the model. And so I'm going to dimension the distance from here over to here, and I'll do that horizontal distance as 0.1. And then I'm going to dimension and watch the color of the circle after I dimension the vertical location from here to here as 1.475. And I just realized that I didn't check my units before I started, and so I need to go to my document settings and make sure, in this case I'm going to use inch units. Make sure your document units are set up to whatever units you are going to use. Now, if I turn on the visibility of the canvas, what I just did is I put in this circle for this pin right here, and so I put it over 100 thousandths or 0.1 from this point right there. So you can already start to see that the image itself just serves as a reference, a guiding reference. It isn't the precise geometry. I use my calipers to try to measure as best I can the actual geometry. I'm going to draw another circle at the center of this circle, and I want to dimension this as a radius. So I will right click and I'll say do a radius dimension, and I'm going to do that as 0.3 radius. I will then draw a line coming down from this circle, and I want to get over to this side of the center of the circle. And so all of our geometry so far is black except for this line, which we need to dimension that line. I'm going to dimension the length of this line at 0.265, and I will dimension the distance from here to the center of this circle, that offset distance, as 0.078. Now, if I look at the canvas, it might not be apparent why I am putting this line right in here, but we're going to trim off some geometry in here, and we'll see in a little while why I put that short little line in here. So sometimes we have to use some logic in our design process when we are reverse engineering from existing geometry. And I'm going to then put a line on this arc, and I'm going to hold the mouse button down. I don't let go of it. So notice as I drag this line around, it's going to put a tangent on there for me automatically, and I'm going to come up to about this location right here. I will then move my mouse away, and I don't actually need to move my mouse away, but I'm going to click and hold the mouse, and I'm going to draw an arc about like that, and then I'll come over and draw a line about like that. Now, I probably shouldn't draw so much geometry as a beginner until we get better at this, but I want this line to be tangent to that arc. So I'll do tangent this line to this arc, and I'll put some dimensions in here. And so I'm going to dimension the radius of this arc as 1 inch. And if your geometry really starts to become unwieldy, instead of doing, I have 3 unconstrained pieces of geometry, just do them one at a time. And if I turn on the visibility, you can see what I'm trying to do. So I'm following along this curve right here, and so I'll put in my dimensions then for that geometry. So I'll add an angle dimension, and actually I want to put in a line in here that I can use as reference. So I'm going to put a horizontal line across here, and I'm going to change that then to construction. So I'll right click and change that to a construction line. I'm going to dimension the angle from this line to this angled line, and I'm going to do that as 20 degrees. I'm then going to dimension the distance from this line up to this construction line, and I will do that as 0.71. And so we see that all of the geometry up to this point, except for this white dot, has turned black. I'm going to trim off this geometry down here, so I'm going to do trim, and I'm going to select that circle to trim it off, and then we will continue modeling along. And now I should save frequently. You could have a crash, or the power could go out. You know, you don't want to lose any work. You know, that's a real beginner mistake, to ever lose any work. You should never lose any work. Let's turn on the visibility of the canvas again, and I'm going to drag this line back to about here. So I'm going to do a tangent arc here and some additional geometry. And so underneath create, I will go to arcs, and I'm going to do a tangent arc, and I will select this point, and I'm going to come down to about there, and then I'm going to do another arc, and I'm going to bring this up in the other direction, and I'll do a third arc, and I'm going to bring this one down in this direction. And so if we look at the canvas, we can kind of see where I'm going with this. So this arc is going to be down here, and this arc will be, so we'll have this arc, and then this arc, and then this arc. It'll be easier once I start putting some dimensions in here to control that. And so let's turn off the canvas, and I'm going to then dimension this arc as 0.735. I'm going to dimension this arc as 1.735, and I want to put the location, because that jumped way over there. I want to put a location of a few dimensions, so I'm going to undo that one, and before I put that one in, I'm going to locate this point. So I'll dimension this point from here over to the origin, that horizontal distance 2.01. Okay, so now that's black up to here. I'll dimension this location from here over to the origin, and I'll do that as 2.8. Now if I change the radius of this dimension, it will be better behaved as far as predictability of what's going to happen. So I'll do 1.735 as the dimension of that arc, and then I will dimension this arc as 0.95. Okay, we can compare this to our image again, our canvas. And so this arc, I'm going to bring this back in here someplace. We'll do another arc, and we'll come down along there. So sometimes it works best to tackle from two ends, and I'm going to drag this line over a little bit, and I'll go ahead and put a overall length on that of 5.65. And then I'm going to draw another line coming down horizontally or vertically from this line, and I want that to be a construction line also. And so I'll change that to construction. And so if I turn on my canvas, so that's approximately the end of this component right here, and I can measure the distance from here to here pretty accurately with my calipers. And so I go more by the caliper dimensions than by just looking at the image. But the image helps to keep you honest so that you don't totally miss some function or some dimension of your geometry. And then I'm going to draw a tangent arc. So I'll do a tangent arc. And if you do certain commands all the time, you may want to click here and pin those or put those in your shortcuts to make those faster to access. I'm going to do a tangent arc off of this one, and this one I want to come about like this, and then I want another tangent arc coming off about like that. And I'm going to make this arc tangent to this construction line. So I'll do tangent this arc to the construction line, and I'm going to go ahead and dimension this arc, and I'm going to dimension that as 0.11, and I'll dimension the radius of this arc as 4.47. I'll then dimension the horizontal distance from here back to the origin, and I'll do that dimension as and I just realized as I was putting this in that I missed a particular arc that I want to put in here, and so I'm trying to decide how I want to recover from that, but I'm going to make this dimension 5.31. Alright, so I actually meant to put an arc in between here and here, and I'm not sure the best way that I can recover from that. Here's the point. I think what I'll do is I'll just draw a circle in here, and I will trim out this piece and this piece, and then I'll delete that circle, and I'll want to put an arc in between connecting those two together. So I'll do a tangent arc. I'm going to click from here to here, and I want this actually to be going up in with concave, and so I'm going to then connect those two together. So this arc and this arc are two different radii. So I'll go ahead and dimension this one, and this one is 3.36. And when I did that, everything blew up on me, so I'll have to come back and figure out a better way of getting these dimensions in. Let's first put the location of the center of this arc from here over to here, and that will be 5.09. And that caused everything to blow up. So I'm going to back up a couple of steps. So I no longer have that dimension in here. Let's turn on the visibility of the canvas. And so I'm trying to get, so this is one arc, a long arc here, and this is another arc in here. I'm trying to get all of this in here. I'm going to drag this closer down to where it should be. And let's see if I put a tangent in there. So let's do tangent between this one and this one. And so that was better behaved, and then let's see if we can put in the dimensions. So I'll do the dimension again, and I have a short little arc in here someplace that I've lost that arc. I'm not sure where it is. Let's drag this down, and if I have too much trouble, so here it is. If I have too much trouble, I might just take this arc out and then put this one in by itself. So I probably should have stayed going along that same path as I was putting this in. And so this arc is 3.36, and then the distance from here over to the origin, that distance is 5.09. So I was able to recover. I still think I have a mistake in here someplace, because the geometry isn't matching my I was expecting this to be down here, so I need to figure out where I've gone wrong and fix that. So I have this arc, and then I'm not sure where this arc is underneath of this one, so I'm going to delete one of the arcs and I'll put it in again. So I'll delete this one, and so I think these arcs are actually over top of each other. So this arc was just a small little segment, and so I'll put that in that location. And let's turn on the visibility of the canvas again, and let's get these down here where they're supposed to be. So this is supposed to be back here, and this is right in here, and then I'm gonna move this arc down here. I'm trying to be careful that I don't want this point to actually snap to that line. Maybe I should just leave that alone. There we go. I'll leave that alone for now. And then I want an arc connecting from here over to here. So I would like to get this shorter, so we'll get that back into here. Let's turn off the canvas, and we'll put in that next arc. So I have this one 5.09 from the origin, and the radius 3.36. Let's do another tangent arc. I'm going to go from here over to here, and I want it also to be tangent at this end, so I'll do tangent between here and here. And then I want the center of this arc, or the radius of this arc, to be much larger, and so I'll select the arc, and I'm going to put in 4.47. And again, that caused my sketch to become poorly behaved. And so let's I'll undo back to where I put that dimension in. Perhaps if I can locate this point, then I can have better control on this sketch. So I'm going to dimension the distance from the center of this arc up to my construction line, and I will do that as 1.515. Okay, so now this sketch turns black. It's fully defined. I'll go back to my canvas, and I see that I need to drag this geometry up, and so I'll get this point, I'll drag this point up, and I see that I've actually made a big change from this, as far as I move this down further than where that was located originally with this 1.515.